1 year after the attack on the Hope, thousands of people gathered in a large park in Geneva. At its center stood a new memorial, a graceful structure of white stone and steel rising into the sky. It was shaped like the hull of a hospital ship, with the names of all 338 people who died on the Hope engraved along its base. Dr. Alan Carter, one of the 12 survivors, stood at the podium. His face still bore scars from the attack, and he walked with a slight limp. The crowd fell silent as he began to speak. 1 year ago today, I lost my friends, my colleagues, and many of my patients, he said, his voice steady despite the emotion. We were on a mission of mercy. We carried medicine, not weapons. We sought to heal, not harm. He gestured to the memorial. This monument bears the names of those we lost, but it stands for something more. It stands for humanity's commitment that those who bring healing will never again travel in fear. President Richard Bailey stepped forward next. Behind him on the stage sat representatives from 27 different alien species. Each wore their own version of white medical garb, a symbol of the alliance that had formed around the Hope Doctrine. Today, we dedicate this memorial, President Bailey said. And today, we also launch 10 new hospital ships, each better protected than before. The first of these ships, the UNHS Remembrance, will complete the mission the Hope began, bringing medical aid to Proxima Centauri colony. The crowd applauded. In orbit above Earth, 10 white ships waited, their hulls marked with the universal symbol for medical services, but now also bearing the insignia of the Hope Doctrine Alliance. 27 species united in the protection of healers. On the Vornax homeworld, things had changed dramatically. After their defeat and the revelations of their attacks on medical ships, internal protests had swept through their society. Many Vornax had been horrified to learn what their military had done. The old High Council had fallen, replaced by reformers who sought to rebuild their place in the galactic community. The new Vornax Chancellor, Mektor, signed the Hope Doctrine with solemn ceremony. We acknowledge our past crimes, he announced to his people and to observers from Earth. We will spend generations making amends. We have learned that strength is not measured by cruelty, but by compassion. Back on Earth, after the memorial ceremony, Nurse Kate Phillips walked through the new UNHS Remembrance as it prepared for its maiden voyage. As one of the Hope survivors, she had been offered any posting she wanted. She had chosen to return to space as the head nurse on the new flagship. The ship was beautiful, filled with the most advanced medical equipment Earth could provide. But it was also subtly different from the Hope. Beneath its medical facilities, the Remembrance carried advanced defensive systems. It would travel with escort ships. Never again would a hospital ship be an easy target. Captain Diane Miller's sister, Lisa Miller, had taken command of the Remembrance. She greeted Kate as she toured the bridge. "Are you sure you're ready to go back out there?" Captain Miller asked gently. Kate nodded. The Hope's mission was interrupted, not ended. There are still people who need our help. "We leave tomorrow," Captain Miller said. "The Proxima colony has waited a long time for us." That night, Kate stood at the large observation window in her quarters, looking out at the stars. She thought of her friends who had died on the Hope. She thought of how Earth had responded, not with blind rage, but with precise justice, and then a new commitment to protecting all who heal. Earth had revealed its strength when needed, but had not been consumed by vengeance. Instead, humanity had created something new, a principle that now united dozens of species. Kate touched the Hope Doctrine insignia on her uniform. The attack had been met with swift and unforgiving justice, but what would endure was not the memory of vengeance, but the commitment to protection. The Hope had been destroyed, but hope itself had spread throughout the stars, stronger than before. As the Remembrance prepared for launch, Earth remained vigilant. Its hidden fleets patrolled quietly. Its advanced weapons remained ready. The galaxy now knew that beneath humanity's peaceful exterior lay steel and fire when needed. But more importantly, the galaxy knew that humanity would fight hardest not for conquest or wealth, but for its healers. And in that revelation, Earth had found new allies, new respect, and a new place among the stars. Admiral Scathar of the Vornax hierarchy sat stiffly in the holding cell aboard the UES Retribution. His 4 yellow eyes blinked slowly as he stared at the humans sitting across from him. The cell was comfortable but secure, with a force field shimmering faintly at the entrance. Intelligence Officer Kevin Harper placed a data tablet on the small table between them. "We've reviewed your ship's records," he said calmly. "In the past 5 years, your forces have attacked medical vessels from 6 different species." Scathar's facial ridges rippled, an expression of pride in Vornax culture. Weak species who waste resources on the failing do not deserve to expand their territory. Harper leaned forward. "You specifically targeted ships clearly marked as medical vessels. Ships with no weapons. Ships carrying the sick and injured." "Yes," the Vornax replied simply. "It is efficient. Attack their weakness. Show them the natural order." Harper shook his head. "What you've shown us is that you don't understand humanity at all." On the bridge, Commander Bennett was speaking with Captain Amy Peterson, who had just arrived on the diplomatic vessel UES Olive Branch. Despite its peaceful name, the Olive Branch was heavily armed, a reflection of humanity's new approach to interstellar relations. "The Vornax High Council has responded to our ultimatum," Peterson informed him. "They're sending representatives to negotiate." Bennett's expression was grim. "There's not much to negotiate. We have proof they've been systematically targeting medical ships from multiple species." "That's exactly why the President wants this handled properly," Peterson replied. "This isn't just about Earth anymore. It's about establishing a principle that medical vessels are untouchable." In the communications center, Peter Morris worked with his team to compile a transmission unlike any Earth had sent before. They gathered the final footage from the Hope, images of the Vornax attacks on other species' medical ships, and documentation of Earth's response. "Is the broadcast ready?" Bennett asked as he entered the center. Morris nodded. "Yes, sir. We can transmit to every known spacefaring species simultaneously." "Do it," Bennett ordered. Throughout known space, on worlds both allied with Earth and those who had kept their distance, communication systems received the same message. The footage played across thousands of different viewing devices on hundreds of worlds. They all saw the Hope's destruction. They saw the proof of other medical ships being targeted. They saw Earth's response, precise, overwhelming, and focused only on military targets. Then they saw President Bailey addressing the galaxy. "To all peaceful species who navigate the stars," he began, "Earth today establishes what we call the Hope Doctrine. From this moment forward, medical vessels of all species are declared neutral and sacrosanct. Any attack on a vessel clearly marked and functioning as a medical ship will be considered an attack on humanity itself, regardless of the ship's origin." He continued, his voice firm but not threatening. "We do not seek empire or dominance. We seek only to ensure that those who bring healing can do so without fear. We invite all species who share this value to join us in this commitment." On a dozen worlds, leaders who had previously viewed humans as a minor power suddenly reassessed their understanding. On others, species who had suffered similar attacks but lacked the strength to respond found new hope in a potential alliance. In the Vornax homeworld's Grand Council chamber, the transmission played before the stunned leadership. They had believed humans to be technologically inferior, focused on medicine and trade rather than military might. Now they faced economic isolation as species after species signaled their support for Earth's Hope Doctrine. One Vornax counselor turned to the others. The humans were not weak. They were waiting. Back on the Retribution, Commander Bennett received reports of responses flooding in from across the galaxy. Over 20 species had immediately pledged to honor and enforce the Hope Doctrine. Others were considering their positions. Harper entered the bridge after his final interview with Admiral Scathar. "The Admiral has given us everything, sir. Their entire attack strategy, their reasoning, even their future targets." "And?" Bennett asked. "They truly believed caring for the sick was a weakness to be exploited," Harper replied. They couldn't imagine it might instead be the source of our greatest strength. Bennett looked at the view screen showing the disabled Vornax fleet. They know better now. Commander Eric Bennett looked at the time display. 0 hour. The 5 Earth ships had moved into perfect attack positions around the Vornax base. None of the alien vessels had shown any sign of detecting them. "All ships report ready," Commander said Communications Officer Peter Morris. Bennett nodded. "Send the signal to all ships. Operation Hippocratic Oath begins now." He took a deep breath. "Weapons Officer Daniels, target the main Vornax warships first. Priority on the vessels that attacked the Hope." "Targets locked," Olivia Daniels replied, her voice steady. "Fire." From the Retribution, brilliant blue streaks of light shot forth, the quantum torpedoes launching toward their targets. The other 4 Earth ships fired simultaneously. For the first time, their stealth systems deactivated as they committed to attack. The Vornax had no warning. The quantum torpedoes phased through their shields as if they weren't there. Each torpedo struck with devastating precision, targeting engines and weapon systems. "Direct hits on all primary targets," Rodriguez reported. "Vornax ships are losing power." Bennett activated the ship's external communications, broadcast on all frequencies, all languages. He stood tall. "This is Commander Eric Bennett of the United Earth Ship Retribution. Your forces attacked an unarmed hospital ship. This is your answer." On the view screen, the Vornax ships scrambled to respond. Their weapons powered up, but too slowly. A second wave of quantum torpedoes struck, disabling more systems. "They're trying to raise their defense grid around the base," Rodriguez said. Bennett nodded to Daniels. "Take it out." More torpedoes launched, striking key points on the base's defense network. Explosions bloomed silently in space. Lieutenant Sam Tucker's voice came over the comm system. "Fighter squadrons ready for launch, Commander." "Launch all fighters," Bennett ordered. "Target their command ships and communication arrays." From the lower bays of each Earth ship, squadrons of small, agile fighters emerged. They were piloted by the best Earth had to offer, men and women who had trained for years in secret for just this moment. The Vornax finally managed to return fire. Energy beams lanced out toward the Earth ships, but most missed their targets. The few that hit encountered advanced shields that absorbed and redirected the energy. Minimal damage to outer hull, shields holding at 92%, reported engineer Will Foster. The Earth fighters swarmed around the larger Vornax vessels like angry bees, firing precision shots at vulnerable points. The aliens had never seen such small, fast combat vessels before and struggled to target them. "We've disabled their main communications array," Tucker reported from his lead fighter. "They can't call for reinforcements." Bennett studied the tactical display. The battle was proceeding even better than expected. The Vornax were completely unprepared for Earth's true capabilities. "Sir," Morris called out, "we're intercepting their internal communications. They're in panic. They keep asking how humans got this technology." "Let them wonder," Bennett replied. Rodriguez, status of enemy fleet. 17 enemy vessels disabled. 3 destroyed when they attempted to self-destruct near our positions. The base's weapons are offline. It had taken only 27 minutes. Bennett opened a channel to all Earth ships. "This is the commander. Phase 1 complete. Begin Phase 2. The Earth ships adjusted their positions, forming a blockade around the Vornax base. The fighters returned to their carriers. Mission accomplished. "Sir," Morris reported, "we're being hailed by the Vornax base." "On screen," Bennett ordered. The view screen showed an alien face, angular, with gray-green skin and 4 yellow eyes. The Vornax commander wore an ornate uniform, now stained with what appeared to be blood. "How is this possible?" the alien demanded. "Humans are peaceful. Weak. You care for your sick instead of letting them die as nature intends." Bennett's voice was cold. "That is exactly why we fight so hard. We protect those who heal. Your attack on our hospital ship was not just an act of war. It was an offense against everything we believe. You should have sent warships, not healers, the Vornax insisted. No, Bennett replied. You should never have attacked healers. He turned to Morris. Cut transmission. Bennett looked at his bridge crew. Prepare boarding parties. We're taking their commander into custody and download everything from their databases. I want to know about every medical ship they've ever targeted. The Earth fleet maintained position, weapons still trained on the disabled Vornax vessels. Justice had been swift, but it wasn't yet complete. The UES Retribution moved silently through space, its hull blacker than the void around it. 4 sister ships followed in tight formation. To any normal sensors, they simply did not exist. The ships absorbed all scanning signals rather than reflecting them. Their engines left no energy trail. They were ghosts hunting through the darkness. On the bridge of the Retribution, Commander Eric Bennett studied the tactical display. His ship and the others had been hiding in plain sight for years, disguised as research stations in the outer solar system. Now they were unleashed for their true purpose. Tracking system has locked onto the Vornax fleet's ion signature, reported Maria Rodriguez, the tactical officer. They're heading toward their forward base in the Rigel sector. Bennett nodded. Maintain stealth approach. All ships coordinate through quantum links only. No standard communications. The 5 ships of Earth's Hunter fleet were like nothing humanity had publicly acknowledged possessing. Each carried weapons that had been developed in secret, tested far from prying eyes. In the weapons control room, Olivia Daniels calibrated the newly deployed quantum torpedoes. These weapons could phase through standard shields by briefly existing in multiple dimensions at once. She had helped design them, but never expected to use them in actual combat. Quantum torpedo systems at full readiness, she reported to the bridge. All safety protocols verified. Commander Bennett acknowledged her report. We're not looking for a fair fight, people. We're looking for justice. The Hunter fleet had been traveling for 3 days, always keeping the Vornax ships just within extreme sensor range. The alien vessels showed no sign of detecting their pursuers. Commander, said Communications Officer Peter Morris, we're picking up transmissions between the Vornax ships. They're celebrating. Bennett's jaw tightened. Let's hear it. Morris put the translated audio on the bridge speakers. Harsh, guttural voices filled the air, speaking in broken English. The humans are weaker than we thought, one voice said. They send healers instead of warriors. Their hospital ship was poorly defended, another replied. Just like the Arcturian medical frigate last year. Bennett's eyes widened. He looked at his intelligence officer. Did they say Arcturian medical frigate? Lieutenant Kevin Harper nodded, already searching through his database. Confirmed, sir. An Arcturian medical ship disappeared last year. It was reported as lost to an asteroid collision. And who else? Bennett asked the air. How many other medical ships have they attacked? Harper worked quickly. I'm finding reports of at least 3 other medical vessels from different species lost in accidents in sectors where Vornax ships were operating. Bennett stood up slowly. They've been targeting medical ships from multiple species. This wasn't just an attack on humanity. It's a pattern. On the main view screen, the Vornax forward base came into view. It was a massive space station orbiting a barren moon. Around it floated the 7 warships that had attacked the Hope, plus a dozen more similar vessels. They're having some kind of ceremony, Rodriguez reported. Sensors show large gatherings in their central chambers. Bennett studied the base layout that his sensors were building. Are there any civilian areas? Any sections that might house non-military personnel? Rodriguez analyzed the data. Negative, Commander. This appears to be a purely military installation. No civilian life signs detected. Good, Bennett said quietly. He opened the ship-wide communication. All hands, this is the commander. We have tracked the enemy to their forward base. In 1 hour, we will engage and neutralize the forces responsible for the attack on UNHS Hope. He paused, looking at a small picture he kept on his command console. his sister who had served as a doctor on a hospital ship similar to the Hope. "These aliens believe we are weak because we care for our sick and injured," he continued. "They believe that compassion makes us easy targets. Today, we will show them the other side of humanity, the side that protects its healers at all costs." Throughout the 5 ships, crews made final preparations. They were the hidden strength of Earth, revealed only in its darkest hour. And they were ready. Bennett gave one final order. "All ships, move into attack positions. Operation Hippocratic Oath begins in 60 minutes. The United Earth Defense Council chamber was silent as the recording from the Hope ended. 24 men and women sat around the circular table, their faces showing shock, grief, and growing anger. President Richard Bailey stood at the head of the table, his knuckles white, as he gripped the edge. 350 crew and patients, he said quietly, and we have confirmed only 12 survivors from the escape pods. Admiral Frank Collins nodded grimly. The survivors report that the aliens targeted the escape pods deliberately. It was only because of a debris field that a few pods managed to hide until rescue arrived. Director Laura Martins of Intelligence tapped her screen. "We have identified the attackers. They call themselves the Vornax hierarchy. We've had limited contact with them before now, mostly through third-party species. They've always been distant, but not openly hostile. Until they attacked an unarmed hospital ship," said General Harold Wright, his voice tight with controlled rage. President Bailey looked around the table. Options. For years, Earth had maintained a careful, peaceful stance in galactic affairs. Humanity had focused on trade, diplomacy, and humanitarian missions. Their military capabilities were portrayed as minimal and defensive. This had been a deliberate choice after early encounters with other spacefaring races had led to misunderstandings and tensions. Admiral Collins cleared his throat. "Mr. President, it's time to reveal Contingency Plan Delta." A murmur ran around the table. Many council members looked surprised. "Contingency Plan Delta?" asked the representative from the African Union. "What is that?" Collins tapped his screen, and a holographic display appeared above the table. It showed ship designs and weapon systems that most of the civilians had never seen before. "Earth has maintained the appearance of limited military capability as a diplomatic strategy," Collins explained. "But we have been developing advanced systems in secret for the past 15 years. These ships and weapons have been kept in reserve, hidden in bases throughout the solar system." President Bailey nodded. "I was briefed on this when I took office. The previous 3 administrations maintained this policy of hidden strength. We hoped never to need it." "And now?" asked the European Union representative. "Now we show the Vornax, and anyone else watching, that attacking the human hospital ship was the worst mistake they could have made," Collins said. Intelligence Officer Nathan Wells stepped forward. "We've been monitoring Vornax communications since the attack. They've made no attempt to explain or apologize. In fact, intercepted messages suggest they're celebrating what they call a successful test of human resolve." "They think we're weak," General Wright said. "They think we won't respond." President Bailey walked slowly around the table. "All my life, I've worked for peace. I believe in diplomacy and understanding between species. But what happened to the Hope?" He paused, gathering himself. "What happened to the Hope cannot go unanswered." He turned to Admiral Collins. "Activate Contingency Plan Delta. Deploy the reserve fleet." Collins nodded. "We have 5 advanced stealth destroyers ready for immediate deployment. The UES Retribution can lead the response force." "What about diplomatic channels?" asked the Asian Alliance representative. "Shouldn't we demand an explanation first?" Wells shook his head. "We've already sent formal communications through 3 different neutral species." The Vornax response was, he consulted his notes. Their exact words were, "Weak species who waste resources on the infirm deserve to be culled." A cold silence fell over the room. "How soon can the fleet be ready?" President Bailey asked. 24 hours, Collins replied. We've been keeping them at readiness. Bailey nodded. Then, in 24 hours, we show the galaxy that humanity protects its healers. He looked at each council member in turn. I am authorizing Operation Hippocratic Oath. The Vornax attacked without mercy. Our response will be swift and unforgiving. He turned to face the holo display of Earth's hidden fleet. But we will not become like them. We target military assets only. We show strength, but also restraint. We deliver justice, not vengeance. General Wright stood. All military commands worldwide are already shifting to war footing. Production facilities are being converted. If this becomes a prolonged conflict, we'll be ready. Let's hope it doesn't come to that, Bailey said. But if it does, humanity will stand united. As the council meeting ended, Admiral Collins looked at the last frozen image from the Hope's transmission. Captain Miller's face as she gave her final orders. "Remember us," she had said. "We will," Collins whispered. "And so will they." Lieutenant Susan Rivera fought to keep her balance as another explosion rocked the ship. The bridge was filling with smoke, and emergency lights cast an eerie red glow over everything. 2 bridge officers lay unmoving near their stations. "Communications are failing," Gray Howard shouted over the alarms. "Main antenna array is damaged." Rivera looked at the damage reports flooding her screen. The Hope was dying. Captain Miller had gone to help with the evacuation, leaving Rivera in command of what remained of the bridge. "We need to get this footage to Earth," Rivera said. "They need to know what happened here." "Regular channels are down," Howard replied. "Then use the emergency quantum transmitter," Rivera ordered. "It's our last option." The quantum transmitter was a new technology, installed on only a handful of ships. It could send a compressed data burst directly to Earth, but it needed enormous power to function. Rivera hit her comm badge. "Engineering, this is the bridge. We need full power to the quantum transmitter." Chief Engineer Steve Jackson's voice came through, broken by static. "Not possible, Lieutenant. Main power is gone. We're on emergency backup only." "We need to send this transmission," Rivera insisted. "It's our last chance to tell Earth what happened." There was a pause before Jackson replied. "I can reroute power from life support to give you 1 shot. Maybe 2 minutes of transmission time." "Do it," Rivera ordered. "You should know," Jackson added. "Rerouting that power means engineering section will lose life support entirely." Rivera closed her eyes briefly. "Understood." In engineering, Steve Jackson worked quickly, his hands steady despite the chaos around him. The remaining engineering crew looked at him with understanding in their eyes as he explained what needed to be done. "Once I reroute this power, we have about 5 minutes of air," he told them. "Anyone who wants to try for the escape pods should go now." No one moved. Jackson nodded, touched by their loyalty. "It's been an honor serving with you all." He made the final connections and hit his comm badge. "Bridge, you have power to the quantum transmitter. Make it count." Back on the bridge, Rivera and Howard worked frantically to compile all sensor data, visual recordings, and ship's logs into one compressed file. "Adding Captain Miller's last orders," Howard said, "and the initial hails we sent to the aliens. Make sure the footage of the medical bays is included," Rivera added. "Earth needs to see we were clearly a hospital ship." The ship shuddered again as another blast tore through it. The artificial gravity flickered, sending loose objects floating briefly before crashing back down. "Transmitter ready," Howard announced. "But we've got more company." The view screen showed 3 more alien ships joining the attack. The escape pods launching from the Hope were now being targeted by precision weapons fire. "Start the transmission," Rivera ordered, her voice tight with anger and grief. Howard activated the quantum transmitter, transmitting to Earth Defense Command now. In his office at Earth Defense Command Headquarters, Admiral Frank Collins was reviewing routine patrol reports when his aide burst in. "Sir, emergency transmission coming in from the UNHS Hope," the aide said, face pale. "Put it on screen," Collins ordered, standing. The large wall screen flickered to life, showing Lieutenant Rivera's face, streaked with blood and soot. "This is Lieutenant Susan Rivera of the UNHS Hope," she began. "We are under attack by unknown alien forces. Our ship is clearly marked as a medical vessel. We have made no provocative actions. I am transmitting visual confirmation of our status and the unprovoked nature of this attack." Collins watched in growing horror as the screen split to show multiple views: the attacking alien ships, the medical bays full of patients, the escape pods being fired upon, and Captain Miller's earlier attempts at peaceful communication. The captain's final orders were to ensure Earth knows what happened here. Rivera continued, her voice steady despite everything. "We are unarmed. We are healers." The transmission showed a blast hitting near the bridge. Rivera was thrown forward but regained her position. "Remember us," she said, just as the screen filled with static and went dark. Admiral Collins stood frozen for several seconds before turning to his aide. "Contact the President and the United Earth Defense Council immediately. Priority Alpha." As the aide rushed to comply, Collins stared at the now blank screen. "And may God help those responsible for this." Nurse Kate Phillips stared at her sensor display with growing concern. The strange readings had returned, stronger this time. She tapped her comm badge. "Bridge, this is Phillips in sensor control. I'm picking up unusual energy signatures at coordinates 227 by 45. Lieutenant Susan Rivera responded immediately. "Can you identify them?" "Negative. They're like nothing in our database," Kate replied. "But they're getting closer." On the bridge, Lieutenant Rivera straightened in the command chair. "Yellow alert. Wake the captain." Captain Miller arrived on the bridge 3 minutes later, still securing her uniform jacket. "Report," she ordered. "Unknown contacts approaching," Captain Rivera said. "They're not responding to standard hails." Captain Miller took her place at the center of the bridge. "Communications, broadcast our medical status on all frequencies and in all known languages. Make it clear we are an unarmed hospital ship on a humanitarian mission." Greg Howard worked his console. "Broadcasting now, Captain." The main screen suddenly flickered to life, showing what had been hidden moments before. 7 ships, sharp and angular with dark metallic hulls, had appeared around them. They moved with precision, forming a loose circle around the Hope. They were cloaked, Security Chief Paul Evans said in disbelief. "That's military technology." "How did they get so close?" Captain Miller demanded. "Their cloaking technology must be beyond anything we've encountered," Rivera answered. Captain Miller raised her voice. "Open all channels. This is Captain Diane Miller of the United Nations Hospital Ship Hope. We are on a medical mission to Proxima Centauri colony. We carry no weapons. Please identify yourselves." The seconds stretched into a full minute of silence. "No response, Captain," Howard reported, his voice tense. "Keep trying. Send visual documentation of our medical status. Show them our treatment pods, our patients." The alien ships remained silent, but they began to move closer. "Captain, they're charging weapons," Evans called out. Miller hit the ship-wide comm. "All hands, this is the captain. We have encountered unknown vessels that appear hostile. All medical staff report to emergency stations. Prepare patients for possible evacuation." Dr. Alan Carter was already awake, reviewing patient files when the alert sounded. He jumped to his feet. "All medical teams to your designated areas. Begin prepping critical patients for transport to escape pods." Throughout the ship, the crew moved with practiced efficiency despite their fear. The Hope had drills for emergencies, but no one had truly expected to need them. Back on the bridge, Captain Miller made one last attempt. "Unknown vessels, we are unarmed. We are healers on a mission of mercy. There are 6 civilians aboard this ship." A bright beam of energy lanced out from the lead alien vessel. It struck the Hope's propulsion section, sending a shudder through the entire ship. "Direct hit to engines," Engineer Steve Jackson reported over the comm. "We've lost main propulsion." Evasive maneuvers on auxiliary power, Miller ordered, though she knew a hospital ship had limited options for evasion. A second beam hit them, then a third. Warning alarms blared throughout the ship. Hull breach on Deck 4, Evans reported. Medical Bay C is exposed to vacuum. Dr. Carter's voice came through, strained and urgent. We have wounded here. We need emergency force fields. Captain Miller's face was grim but composed. All hands, abandon ship, get to the escape pods. Medical staff, prioritize patients. The alien ships continued their assault, methodically targeting different sections of the Hope. The white hull, marked with symbols of peace, was now scared with black burn marks and gaping holes. In the communications center, Greg Howard worked frantically. Captain, I'm recording everything and broadcasting on emergency channels to Earth. Someone needs to know what's happening here. Lieutenant Rivera looked at the sensor readings. They're targeting our escape pod bays now. Captain Miller stood straight, her voice firm despite everything. Continue evacuation. Security teams, assist medical staff. She watched the alien ships on the screen, their weapons still firing without mercy or pause. And God help us all. The Hope shuddered again as another devastating blast tore through its midsection, splitting the great hospital ship into pieces. The emergency lights flickered, and darkness began to spread through the dying vessel. The medical staff of the UNHS Hope moved with purpose through the bright corridors. The large hospital ship hummed with activity as it traveled toward Proxima Centauri colony. Captain Diane Miller stood on the bridge, her eyes fixed on the main screen showing their path through space. She was proud of her ship's mission, to bring help to those who needed it most. Captain, Medical Bay reports all treatment pods are ready, said Communications Officer Greg Howard from his station. Captain Miller nodded. Thank them for the update. How long until we reach the colony? 48 hours at current speed, Captain, replied Navigator Jane Foster, her fingers moving across her control panel. The Hope carried over 300 medical personnel and 50 naval staff. Their mission was critical. The Proxima colony faced a rare disease outbreak that had already claimed many lives. Dr. Alan Carter, the ship's chief medical officer, had been working tirelessly to prepare specialized treatment pods that would save countless colonists. Dr. Carter checked the readings on the final treatment pod and smiled with satisfaction. The medical bay was massive, taking up 6 decks of the ship with state-of-the-art equipment. White uniformed medical staff hurried about, preparing for their arrival at the colony. Looking good, Doctor, said Nurse Kate Phillips as she approached with a data tablet. All pods are showing green status. Dr. Carter took the tablet and reviewed the information. Excellent work, Kate. These colonists have been suffering for months. I can't wait to see these pods in action. The Hope was not just any ship. It was the pride of Earth's humanitarian fleet, a vessel built solely to bring medical aid throughout human space. Its hull was painted bright white with large red crosses and universal peace symbols. It constantly broadcast its medical status on all frequencies to ensure no one would mistake it for a military vessel. Captain Miller made her routine walk through the ship, stopping to speak with crew members and patients alike. Some patients were being transported back to Earth for specialized treatment, while others were medical staff's family members joining the mission. The Hope was not just a hospital, it was a community of healers. In the engine room, Chief Engineer Steve Jackson monitored the ship's power systems. The Hope wasn't built for speed, but its engines were reliable. Power distribution normal, Captain, he reported over the comm system. We're running at optimal efficiency. Keep it that way, Steve, Captain Miller replied. Those colonists are counting on us arriving on schedule. Later that evening, Nurse Kate Phillips was on duty in the long-range sensor monitoring station. Part of the Hope's safety protocols involved constant scanning for space debris or other hazards. She noticed unusual readings on the edge of their sensor range. That's odd, she muttered, adjusting the sensitivity. The readings flickered, then disappeared. Probably just cosmic interference, she thought, making a note in the log anyway. Better safe than sorry. In the dining hall, off-duty crew members shared meals and stories. The mood was light despite their serious mission. Dr. Carter sat with Security Chief Paul Evans, discussing the colony's situation. The reports say nearly 20% of the colony has shown symptoms, Dr. Carter explained. Their medical facilities were overwhelmed weeks ago. Chief Evans nodded. That's why ships like ours matter so much. We bring hope, just like our name says. Captain Miller joined them, setting down her tray. Latest update from the colony shows the quarantine is holding, but they're running out of basic supplies. Our arrival will change everything, Dr. Carter said confidently. As the artificial night cycle began, most of the crew settled into their quarters for rest. Captain Miller made one final round of the bridge before handing command to the night shift officer. All systems normal, Captain, reported Lieutenant Susan Rivera as she took the command chair. Sleep well. Call me if anything changes, Captain Miller said, though she didn't expect any problems. The Hope had made dozens of similar missions without incident. The hospital ship continued its journey through the star-speckled darkness, its white hull gleaming under the distant sunlight, unaware that in the void ahead, something was watching its approach with hostile intent.